Are new BMWs reliable? I mean, if you owned a BMW 10 or 15 years ago, you were very, very well versed in the art of catastrophic timing chain failures, oil leaks, coolant leaks, many expensive failures, and high diagnostic fees. But if you can believe it, BMW's gone through great lengths to vastly improve the reliability of virtually all of their lineup today. From the 4-cylinders, 6-cylinders, and their V8s have gotten vastly better. How much better? Let's get into it now. Life's too short to drive boring cars. So you ask the question, is BMW a reliable brand by today's standards? So how do we actually quantify how reliable BMWs actually become? Well, if you check consumers reports, would you believe it, in recent days, BMW has edged its way up. By today's standards, consumers reports identifies BMW as holding number 3rd spot next to only Toyota and Lexus. They're better than Hondas, they're better than Mazdas, they're better than just about every brand out there based on consumers report. Okay, it doesn't all end there. How about RepairPal? They study and analyze a vast percentage of failure rates of a lot of vehicles on the market, and they also identified that BMW on average is a 2.5 out of 5 star in terms of overall durability. Some models being the 550, 750 being the worst, down around 1.5 star out of 5. There are models, in fact, that are closer to 3.5 and 4 star out of 5. For example, the X1 series, and that basically tells you the lower that you go down the spectrum in terms of overall luxury amenities, and the simpler the vehicle, the more reliable they tend to be. RepairPal also suggests that only 0.9 vehicles actually have to make it to the shop unexpectedly in a given year, and only about 15% of those visits are of severe nature. Not only that, you can expect to pay about $968 for your average BMW and its annual service fee. So it's relatively reliable and relatively affordable for a luxury car brand. So fortunately, BMW has transitioned away from unreliable engines like the N20, which is a turbo 4-cylinder engine that was known to munch up air filters, as well as has catastrophic timing chain issues, particularly in the earlier generations. Then you had the turbo 6-cylinder engines, the N54, which was twin turbo and horribly unreliable, with problems like wastegate rattle, high pressure fuel pumps failing, fuel injectors, vast amount of water pump leaks and hose leaks. And we don't even want to talk about all the oil leaks that car had. And while the N55, which preceded the N54, was vastly better, it still had a lot of problems. Then along was the twin turbo V8, the N63, the original variant, which had a whole host of problems. It was a hot V, so in other words, 2 turbos mounted within the V caused excessive amount of oil consumption because the valve guide seals would start to melt down. You'd also have other issues, timing chain failures on those N63s, as well as excessive battery draw on all of the vehicles, and lots of problems with replacements, high pressure fuel pumps, fuel injectors. Those engines were problematic from top to bottom. But guess what? This is a whole new time. Now BMW has introduced a whole new lineup of engines. The B48, which is the current generation 4-cylinder engine, and you'll find those in cars like 430s, 330s, X3, and 30i, and pretty much every other X series vehicle that may come equipped with a 4-cylinder engine now actually includes that B48 engine if you're talking about their base drivetrain. Then BMW's mid-level engine is their turbo 6-cylinder engine called a B58, which replaced those N54 and N55 disasters before it, and you can find those beautiful turbo 6-cylinder engine B58s in cars like M340s, X7s like this with the 40i series. Even the X4 like this has the M40i. And also pretty much any X series vehicle, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and any beyond with the 40i series are vehicles that actually do include that B58 and is literally BMW's sweet spot. One of the most reliable engines today and the one that's most versatile. A good blend of economy, performance, as well as efficiency and reliability. The B58 is the engine to have, but there's also a third engine that's been vastly improved, and I mentioned the N63 has gone to 3 different variants. Now we're on the TU version of the N63. Now the N63 with that wonderful 4.4 liter twin turbo V8 had a lot of promise, but it had a lot of durability issues until now. Now what we're looking at, you can find it in vehicles that are generally in the larger size and more executive by nature, like the X7 like we have here, or vehicles like this. We're talking about the 5 Series, 6 Series, 7 Series, and beyond are all vehicles with that potential upgrade to the beautiful N63. Again, remember, original variants were horrifyingly unreliable, but the latest has been vastly improved. So the 4-cylinder engine, as you'll find in anything with the 430, and that's the B48, has other revised updates. Top exhaust systems, which actually allow the vehicle to breathe more freely. Of course, this newer generation also has great accent detailing and taillights with more revised LEDs, updated mirrors, as well as you have the updated front grills, particularly on the 4 Series cars like that. But what are some of the issues and improvements with this B38 engine that you'll find? Well, many owners do identify that there's more turbo lag. So in other words, the time from you put your foot to the gas to the time that it goes zoom seems to be a little more between this car versus the cars with the N20 engine. However, this does provide a bigger output power ultimately and more drivability once you're on the boil. Now, most of the updates on these engines have been done so for ultimate durability, but there have been some maintenance type issues with these vehicles just because the fact that they flipped the engine and now your Vano solenoids and your timing chain are back at the bulkhead rather than at the front, so they're more difficult to access. Some people think that you need to lift that engine out. You actually don't. You just need a special tool to remove those Vanos solenoids to actually do your proper maintenance on there. But as well, coolant leaks is a problem that you might experience with some engines. Oil pan gaskets could leak with time, as well as the oil filter housing, and they are identifying already with some of these vehicles continually eating up oil filters. And this past summer, I actually had an X2 in my possession. It was lent to me for a period of time to actually trial it, test it, and review it, and I loved it. And it actually had the B48 engine, and I definitely can confirm that that engine is a hot rod, spunky, and full of spice. Definitely one of their best 4-cylinder engines on the market and in the industry, really, for that matter. So the B58 is vastly improved. This came out in 2015 and has gone through a few revisions over time to make it ultimately reliable. This also has a great exhaust tuning that you'll find on a lot of their vehicles, and it looks great, not just the exhaust tips, but it sounds great too. Beautiful interior with deep bolstered seats and the latest iDrive system, fold-away mirrors with LED strips, beautiful wheels with red calipers, and of course a very aggressive stance from the front. But it's this beautiful engine that's tucked under this hood of this that is ultra reliable and has taken BMW to a new level. So what are some of the things you can expect from that engine? Well, there's been some big improvements from the last generation of engines. For starters, we can start with the fuel system improvements, particulate filters. So you have a beefier timing chain arrangement with these vehicles, but again, as mentioned, that's not the bulkhead, so it's more difficult to get at, but everything is beefed up and made much stronger. We also have an improved crankcase and of course an intake manifold arrangement, and this has the heat encapsulation so that when this vehicle's warm, it maintains the heat within the engine a lot longer, up to 36 hours, so it prevents those high and low swings, because those are your actual enemies of cracked plastics, gaskets that start to leak, and any other failures are often rooted to massive temperature swings. Now, there have been a few issues noted with these engines. Of course, coolant loss. They do have a separate system. Of course, for your cooling system, now they have 2 separate tanks. Leaks are a problem with some of these vehicles, whether it's the water pump, which is now improved because it's actually a mechanical water pump. So there have been improvements on that front. However, there are leaks associated with that, and as well as the overflow tank reservoir. There's a variety of different areas that these can leak, or they can just consume it in some regard. Watch for the coolant on the ground. Of course, some of these have PCV issues, which can create smoke in the back end, poor performance overall, heavier oil consumption, as well as heavier fuel consumption. Now, while the engine's relatively new, it does show to be quite a bit more durable than anything before it. The N54 or the N55 were both relatively disastrous. This is vastly improved in almost every aspect. And here's the latest and greatest, what we have with the N63. That's that twin turbo V8 as identified because it's a 50 series. You'll notice right there, this one's X-Drive, so it's all-wheel drive, all clamping to get you through the snow and ice. But the exhaust systems, for example, are improved so they freer flowing. But the wheels are beautiful, large sunroof on these 5 Series cars, and an interior that's literally second to none, better than anything else on the market today. We also notice it has the laser LED headlights, which give you lots of extra illumination. They reach further than almost any other standard lights that any other brand are putting out. And of course, we have the revised grille. You'll notice they're closed for better cooling. It allows the blockage and opens as needed. But it's that N63 that's under the hood that was the controversy of so many issues. The original N63 was a hot V, turbos in the middle, start to broil, plastics, gaskets, cause leaks, oil consumption because valve guide seals, timing chains would fail on these cars, excessive battery draw, so this thing would be dead after 4 days. High pressure fuel pumps, which are big bucks, and the fuel injectors even worse. So these were problematic to say the least, and disgusting to say the most, but things have changed. Now we're on N63 TU3. Of course, third revision has gone through multiple revisions through different components, and now what you actually have is an engine that's great, powerful, performs well, it's fuel efficient, and it's relatively reliable, even by BMW standards. What are some of the key updates that they've created in this engine to actually make them a lot better? Well, because this is twin turbos, it actually has two turbos and they're upgraded and they actually perform and flow more air, giving them more output. They also have electric arc wire sprayed internals to add durability in the engine. There's piston crown squirters on there for oil, so they get improved oiling, keep things cool and lubricated from top to bottom. They also have a revised crankshaft as well as improved main rod bearings. The fuel system's been upgraded so it's more durable, flows better fuel and allows for more horsepower. And as well, some of the problems with those turbos creating all that heat, now there's improved shielding in that engine to actually reduce the amount of heat that bears down on all the adjacent parts. A lot of the plastic pieces that can melt are no longer going to be subjected as severely as they once were in the earlier generations of the N63. There's also improved valve stem seals. Of course, that's on your V8, that's your intake on your heads. Of course, the seals won't flow as much oil past them, so they don't consume as much oil as a general rule. The Vano system is improved, as mentioned already, high pressure fuel pumps improved as well. The latest N63 is proving to hold up a lot better. Fewer coolant leaks, fewer oil leaks, but more importantly, fewer catastrophic failures. Timing chain issues are no longer the problem that they once were. And no longer can you rightfully even say the N63 TU3 is that bad of an engine. It's actually quite robust and really no worse than any other luxury upgraded high performance engine on the market today. I mean, I could literally go on and on, but their 4-cylinder, 6-cylinder, and their V8 engines are vastly improved, making any choice that you make in the modern BMW lineup actually a reasonably reliable one. There's a couple other things to note that are also relatively reliable on these modern day BMWs, which also helps escalate their rating. They actually have some of the best transmissions in the market. With that beautiful ZF 8-speed auto, that thing shifts lightning quick, almost as fast as a double clutch. It's outfitted to most of their vehicles in different states of tune and is more robust and reliable than almost anything else. Remember, even Lexus, and they make some amazing vehicles at Lexus, but their transmissions have never been the strongest. That's where BMW shines. They've got their hands on that wonderful ZF 8-speed auto. That's bulletproof. Some of the electrics are much improved and certainly better than you'll find from some of the Italian luxury cars like you'll find from Alfa or Maserati. Another thing BMW does very, very well, nobody likes to see their car rust away at 5 or 6 years of age, and BMW has always done a magnificent job of keeping up on the metal quality, and a lot of their body panels are either plastic or aluminum, and those don't rust. So generally the vehicles cosmetically look very, very good even after 6 or 7 or 8 years. So BMW has done a lot of hard work to actually earn their spot in top slot. Now that all comes with a massive caveat, and I have to share that with you. Reliability is what a vehicle holds when a vehicle doesn't let you down. In other words, if you're driving roadside and the vehicle gets you from A to B, having no breakdowns, no unpredictable problems, that is a good thing. That's reliable. That's dependable. When you turn the key and the car starts, that's reliable. What's not necessarily reliable is developing a coolant leak or a valve cover gasket leak or a water pump that's starting to seep antifreeze. A lot of those things can and will likely start to be a problem after about 5 or 6 years. You can count at about 70,000 miles or about 5 years, you're going to start anticipating some of those things starting to work their way in the mix. So take it all with a grain of salt. When the vehicles are relatively youthful, they're deadly bulletproof reliable, but they will come with some high dollar expenses, maintenance, high service costs, of course, shop rates that are up about $200 an hour, as well as diagnostic fees are enough to choke a horse at about $250 just to get your vehicle checked with a check engine light. If you're not the type of person that worries about holding on to your vehicle for 10 or 15 years, that's fine. And with all of that said, check out that video, you're gonna love it. Could in fact one of these great BMWs be on the list of some vehicles with engines that make that vehicle last forever? Hope to see each and every one of you on the next one. We'll see you real soon. Bye-bye.